Recording. All right, good evening, everyone. This is Amy Edwards. I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Rockford Area Schools Board of Education. It is Monday, April the 19th, and it is 6:30 p.m. And we will bring our meeting to order with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and we'll do a board roll call. Beth Praska.
Here.
Jessica Johnson.
Here.
Eric Gordy.
Here.
Jenny Nealand.
Here.
Brady Anderson.
Here.
Amy Edwards here. We have quorum of the board. All 6 members are present. I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Derek Gordy, make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a first from Mr. Gordy. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Jessica.
I have a second from Ms. Johnson. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion or comment? Pending no further discussion or comment, I'll call for a roll call vote. Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Beth Praska.
Aye.
Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
Amy Edwards. Aye. The agenda carries as presented. All right. Next, we'll jump into our public comment portion of the board meeting. The Minnesota Governor Tim Walz first declared a state of emergency on Friday, March 13th, 2020, and moved to limit the size of public gatherings in response to the COVID-19 virus. Therefore, attendance of the public at this meeting would not be feasible due to the emergency declaration pursuant to state statute. We have requested that members of the public submit comments via online form, which is posted on our website at least 3 hours prior to the meeting. Just before this meeting was called to order, I did ask the district office if there were any public comments, and there were no public comments that were recorded. So with that, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is our consent agenda. I would entertain a motion regarding the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I have a first motion on the floor, first by Brady Anderson. Do I have a second?
Eric Gordy, I'll second.
I have a second by Eric Gordy. Any further discussion? All right, pending no further discussion, I'll call for a roll call vote. Beth Praska.
Aye.
Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Amy Edwards. Aye. The consent agenda carries. All right. Next, we will go to our agenda item of our item number, let's see, 5A, which is the resolution of acknowledgement of contributions and donations. It's presented in your packet. Once again, incredibly generous community members, as evidenced by just all of the different supplies that have been donated, as well as monetary donations through different community funds, as well as the Rockford Education Foundation, which is representative of multiple donors across our community. So again, each month, this is pretty special to have an opportunity to review. This is an action item for us to accept the donations as presented. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion to accept the resolution of acknowledgements of contributions and donations as stated in the agenda.
All right, I have a first from Jessica Johnson. Do I have a second?
I will second that motion.
I have a second from Jenny Nealand. any further discussion or comment? Pending no further discussion or comment, I'll call for a roll call vote. Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Beth Kreska.
Aye.
Let's see, sorry, Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
And Amy Edwards, aye. Did I catch everybody? Sorry, I was distracted because there was a phone line thinking in. All right, I covered everyone. Thank you. So resolution carries as presented. Thank you, everyone, and it carries unanimously. Just a point of order, Yvonne, if you could just make sure that if as people are calling in, if we make sure that those lines are muted, if there's a way you can do that.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. All right. Next, we will jump into item number 5B. I'm going to turn it over to our business manager as well as our superintendent, Rhonda Dean. So first, I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda if you just want to introduce the topic. And then we'll turn it over to Ms. Lego. And did you bring a consultant along with you this evening as well, Stanley?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Yes, we did.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is introduce a discussion about a reissuing of a bond. And so I just wanted to, I don't know if we've had an opportunity to really formally meet Tanley Lego, sorry, Tanley. But I'm going to turn it over to her. And we do have someone here from PMA, our financial consultant, who will go through the presentation, but I'll go ahead and turn it over to our business manager, Ms. Lego. Tanley?
Thank you, Mrs. Dean. My name is Tanley Lego. I'm the business manager here at Rockford Schools District, and I have been reviewing some of our bonds, and I noticed that one of our bond had a call date in the fall, and we then reached out to our consultants that we would like to look into the possibility of refinancing. And so then we came in contact with our bank who does our cash flow, who's familiar with our small business environments, and just kind of get an idea of where we are at and what we should do. And this is, I would like to introduce is PMA, who it works with Minnesota Trust. They also do our cash flow and investment banking, and they have a good grasp of our current financials. So I have with us a guest. His name is Steve Pumper, and he's going to help show you what this what it looks like going forward. So do I have Steve Pumper on the line?
I am here. Thanks, Tanley. Hello, everyone. I got here just in the nick of time. I was on the wrong link here for a minute, but I'm glad I'm here. And thanks for the thumbs up, Rhonda. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Madam Chair. Thanks for the introduction, Tanley, Superintendent, and the rest of the board members as well. Steve Pumper, I'm with PMA Financial. And as Tanley said, we do a variety of things for your district and have all the way back since 2006. Acting as municipal advisor is a new task for us. And as Tanley mentioned, you have two bonds that are eligible to be refunded. One actually right now, which you have a resolution in front of you today to take action on. And then one we'll talk about where you would take action a few months from now in this fall as well. So with that, I'm going to just stop for a second and share my screen and then go over the presentation that was included in your board materials. Oh, the host disabled it. Is the host able to or else I can just talk through the presentation if you want to look at your board materials.
I will make you a co-host.
Are you my host?
Yes, I will make you a co-host.
Okay, thank you.
You're set.
Very good. Okay. All right, so in front of you, I have both of the bonds that are eligible to be refunded. The first column is talking about the 2010A bonds. Those were capital facility bonds. There's only 4 years left of payments that you have left to make on those bonds. And you'll notice in that second row where it says the current interest rate on the bonds is 3.38%. In today's market, we believe we can refund those to you for a net cost of 1.89%. Again, this is very similar to if you have a mortgage and you're trying to refinance your home mortgage. The term for bonds is called a refunding. The gross savings that you receive on that would be $18,000 roughly over the remaining 4 years. So that's roughly $4,500 a year. The second column, actually, I guess the third column, talks about the 2013A bonds. Now they have a call date of February 1st of 2022. So we're not able to refund those until 90 days prior to February, but we can start that process back in August, roughly in August and September. And I'll show you that timeline as we go forward. Those are much larger bonds. You have 7 years left of payments on those. And again, we'd be expecting to exchange the current interest rate of 2.71% on the remaining bonds to something just slightly under 1%, which would save your taxpayers just over $2 million or approximately $300,000 a year. One thing, the board members, I want you to understand, the action that you would be taking tonight on the 2010A bonds, that savings of $18,000 a year would be savings that would go back to your capital budget, so part of your general fund. So the district actually receives additional dollars to do capital because right now you're paying those debt service payments out of your current capital budget. The savings that you would receive by refunding the 2013A bonds, that's from your tax levy. So the residents and the business owners in your community through their tax levy are paying the debt service payments on those bonds. And so by reducing the amount of interest that you would need to collect over the remaining 7 years, you would be giving your taxpayers some relief to the tune of that, over $2 million in total. So again, your levy that you would certify would be roughly $300,000 less than if you don't refund those. The reason that we're able to do this right now is really just simply because of where interest rates are. This chart here is just a little bit of education for you. This is a index that measures the interest rates on AAA rated 5-year bonds. It's a national index that's put out every single day. And this is just showing you the last 10 years. So back, the far left is April of 2011. The far right is April of 2000, of 20,000, or 2021, where we are right now. And you can see what's happening, that interest rates have fallen dramatically. We are almost at historical lows. The historical lows happened back in August of 2020, and they've risen slightly since then, but it's still an advantageous time for you to do some refinancing. So what this looks like on your 2010A savings, again, really simple math. Your current payments over the next 4 years are roughly that $154,000 to $155,000 level, so a total of $619,000. If you refinance or refund these bonds according to interest rates where they are right now, we would expect your payments to drop to that $601,000 number. So again, somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 a year. As I mentioned before, the savings go back to your capital fund. Now, this is the net savings that you'll receive as a district. So all the cost of issuance, which you'll see on the next slide, the fee that you pay us, the fee that you pay bond counsel, are already included before you get to that savings number. So this is the real savings that you'll actually will receive, obviously estimated on what we think your interest rates will be. The sources and uses of funds. So we would issue $591,000 worth of refunding bonds. That's what your resolution will authorize us to do. $578,000 of that will go back to refund the existing bonds that are out there right now. Our fee is $5,000 to get this done. Your other costs of issuance are ballparked around just under $7,000. And again, that's bond counsel fee. There's a paying agent involved as well. And again, those costs are above and beyond the savings. So they're taken out before we get to that savings number. The timeline for getting these done tonight is the first step, and that's to have the board consider the resolution that's in your packet. If in fact you approve that resolution, we then will get to work and we'll distribute what we call a term sheet to interested banks. This will be done as a private placement, which is a very cost-effective way to get a smaller issue like this issue is done. We're anticipating that we'd have a deadline to get proposals back by May 11th. And then at May 17th, we'd be back in front of your full board to ratify the resolution. What's important for board members to note is that in the resolution, you are granting authority to the superintendent and the business officer, along with one officer of the board, to do any type of signing prior to your May 17th ratifying resolution. So this does go back to the full board for full ratification, but as long as we hit certain parameters that are in the resolution that the board will approve tonight, you're granting authority to a board officer and your administration to take action on signing the documents that are necessary to enter into the agreement. So the parameters resolution, what are your, I just mentioned that first bullet point, you're granting that authority. You also are enabling the district to apply for, to be included in the state credit enhancement program. This is a free program that is offered to every district in the state of Minnesota, where the state is guaranteeing that they will make the debt service payments if the district fails to make those payments. Why this is advantageous for you is it lowers your interest rate because it's just a great surety thing for anybody who wishes to purchase your bonds, in this case a bank, to say, well, if for some reason the Rockford area school district does not make good on their payment, the state will come through and make good on the payment. Again, that's a free service, and so you're granting authority to apply for that. I mentioned before, we're planning on doing this as a private placement with a banking institution, whether that's a local institution or a national institution. We'll see who has the best rates going forward. So that's what you're authorizing in the resolution tonight. And then switching gears, looking at the 2013 bonds, which you don't have a resolution in front of you tonight, but will be coming forward in August of this year. This is the one that obviously shows a lot larger savings because there's a lot more bonds left to be paid off. As I mentioned, you really have roughly 7 years. It shows 8 years on there as well, but you've already made the levy for that first year, the payment that's due on February 1st of 2022. So you're really going to receive 7 years worth of savings by having these refinanced. And you can see that you're exchanging all the payments in that second column that's titled current payment for the estimated new payments, which are in total less by $2,084,000. Again, all those savings, roughly $300,000 a year, will go back to the taxpayers, meaning that you'll just levy $300,000 less per year over the remaining 7 years of the levies of those bonds. The timing for this one, again, this is just by law. We're just not allowed to do this sooner than this. We expect to be before your board in August of 2021, when your board would consider the resolution. And then in September, we would be doing the bond sale, and it would be done probably different. We probably would do a competitive sale on these bonds because it's much larger. So instead of doing a private placement, just be a different method of sale that we would use. And then we would close them on November 4th, which would be the first day. That's the 90 days prior to the call date. So there's no action for you to take on the refunding the 2013A bonds tonight, just more informational purposes, so that you can expect this to be in front of you this fall. And with that, I'll turn it back to Tanley or the superintendent or the chair for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Steve. I'll just look across the board. Do you have any questions? Yep, Jenny.
I have one quick question. So let's say that the interest rates kind of skyrocket before we close on the 2013 one. Are we locked in at the figures that we just saw right now?
I heard everything except the very last part. Are we locked into what?
The interest rates that were just shared.
Oh, no, nothing is locked in. Nothing will be locked in until the date it actually happens. These are all estimates at this point in time. And actually, one of the parameters of the resolution on the 2010 that you are taking action on now is if we can't save you at least $5,000, we won't do the deal. We believe it's going to be, closer to the $18,000 number, but you're right. Between now and the day we actually receive bids, something can happen to interest rates. That's absolutely a true statement.
Okay.
And Jenny, I will say that we're going to have to go through this exact same process again later this year when we get to the 2013 bond. This is just for the 2010 bond at this time. So we'll have to reassess at that time to see if interest rates do happen to change drastically. We will have the opportunity to assess whether or not it's feasible for us to make these changes.
That's true. Yes.
Jenny, did you get your question fully answered? Great, thank you. Brady.
Yeah, so obviously this seems like a great thing for the district. Anything we can do to save our taxpayers money is awesome, right? What are the risks?
Well, there's no risk to the district. Because there's no cost to the district unless we get the deal done. So there's no out-of-pocket expenses at all. The only, I don't want to call it a risk, but it's possible you don't save as much as I'm telling you. We're anticipating that you're saving if interest rates change between now and the date that interest rates gets locked. But there's no risk to the district as far as costs out of pocket.
Great, appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brady. Any other questions? Eric, you're unmuted.
Yeah, as we go through this, we did meet Miss Dean, Miss Lago, and Steve and I. We had a conversation earlier last week, and the fees and all the other associated costs for refinancing, just like with your home, because interest rates are at such good rates, so many people are choosing to refinance at this time. Substantial saving to the district, obviously, if we can get our 2013 bond in February to do the same thing, even better. All the fees and associated will be rolled back into refinancing this, so there is no upfront cost to the district. It's just rolled in, and we do have, we will have actualized savings to the district just because of the great reduce in the interest rate. So as the treasurer and reviewing this and talking this through, any opportunity we have to save money is a good thing. So as the treasurer, I'm supporting this fully and hopeful we're able to move forward with this one, as well as have good assessment when in February when the 2013 bond becomes available.
Yeah, that would be tremendous to get the 2013 refinanced at the rates of today to save upwards of $2 million is incredible. So yeah, good work in identifying this opportunity to refinance at these, as you hear in all the radio ads, historic low rates. So nice work.
Steve, before we call for a vote or on the resolution, would you mind just very clearly articulating kind of the parameters that are set forth in the resolution, just to ensure that the board fully does understand that?
I will, absolutely. And I'm looking, in case you want to follow along in the resolution, it's in your packet. In paragraph 2, that's where I said that you're allowing the district to apply for the state credit enhancement program. And again, when I say applying, it's an automatic thing, but it's just allowing us to make it happen. And then in paragraph 3, you're saying that you're going to work with PMA Securities. So that's the firm that I represent, that we're authorized to go out and get this deal done for you. And that you're granting authority to the superintendent or the business manager, plus any officer of the board, to execute any documents that are needed to get this deal done. That we can exceed $595,000 worth of par of the refunding bonds, and that the savings has to be at least $5,000. So those are kind of the financial parameters. It also says in paragraph 5 that Kennedy and Graven is acting as your bond counsel, and I know that you're familiar with them, and they're the ones who prepared this resolution for you. That's pretty much it. Although it does also lay out that We expect to be back at your May 17th meeting to have the full board approve it. That's not a guarantee though. I mean, if something were to happen that we couldn't get the deal done before May 17th, or we would advise you to wait longer, we'd come back at a different meeting. But our expectation is we will be back in front of you at May 17th.
Great. Thank you for just walking everyone through that. Any other questions from the board before we proceed forward? Seeing none, this is an action item, and I would entertain a motion related to the resolution that's in front of you this evening.
This is Eric Gordy. I make a motion to accept the got the wrong thing up, sorry. Accept the bond resolution as presented.
I have a first from Mr. Gordy. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Mr. Anderson. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion or comment? All right, pending no further discussion or comment, Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Beth Praska.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Amy Edwards. Aye. Resolution carries unanimously.
Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Steve. Appreciate your partnership. Thank you, Ms. Lego, for getting this all presented, and thank you, Superintendent Dean, for shepherding this through. So this is great. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Back to the agenda. All right, next, I think that covered that entire agenda item of 5B. So we'll go into item number 6A, which is our teaching and learning and principal and special assignment report. So I will call jointly both Dr. Scheidler as well as Director Kevin Keller. Mr. Keller, to the virtual podium.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I tried to go through my computer and I got booted out, or everyone froze. So I'm talking to you through my phone now. Mr. Keller, I don't believe will be able to join us this evening, but I did want to acknowledge and recognize his contributions. He and I collaborated quite a bit in preparing this information, and it was very, very helpful for me because this is my first foray in creating the budget and looking at all the revenues and costs. And Mr. Keller has been doing it the last couple of years. So very, very helpful. And I'm very grateful for his assistance. If I can, I had two documents today. And the first one, I just kind of wanted to use it as a "you are here" moment. So I don't know, Yvonne, if you can just pull up just my cover page. Is that possible?
That one is actually, hang on a second. Let me try one thing.
Okay.
Here we go. Let me stop this one.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Yvonne. So folks, this is the broad overview of our summer school, and I kind of want to just show you where we're at. Part A, we had to consider our schedule, and that was our administrative team, and at a DAB meeting, just looking at how our buildings are used throughout the summer, which areas would be available. Then we had our teachers complete recommendations. We asked them to submit those in mid-April. And once we had those recommendations of which students should be invited to our summer learning opportunities, and when I say invited, we asked our teachers to pick the students that were in most need of those opportunities. Not that many other students couldn't benefit, but we asked for the list of most in need. Then on this past Friday, we sent out our family communication, and I'm happy to say we sent this email to over 200 families. We've already heard back from 35, and I'm also happy to share that there's been word of mouth where I've had parents call me and say, hey, my son or daughter wasn't invited, but I'd really like them to participate. Is there a way that they can? And so we're having those conversations. So that's really positive because I think some of us thought that coming out of this COVID predicament and pandemic, that people would be bedraggled and wouldn't be interested in summer learning. But so far the opposite is true. There has been very, very positive response. And of the 30, like I said, 35 people that have responded, 34 have said, yes, please have my child participate. And the one person that said no said, oh my goodness, we have a conflict with a camp. Is there any way we can come outside the conflict? And the answer is yes. So we're really excited where we stand there. We are in the midst of our registration window. So that's part D. And that window extends until April 30th. That will allow us to, as of the 30th, make our decision on staffing and finalize the budget. Obviously, with staffing, that's the biggest part of our budget, the biggest cost. And we want to make sure we are absolutely responsible with every taxpayer dollar and every CARES fund. So we're looking at our resources and are going to make the best possible decisions with the most up-to-date data that we have regarding registration. So Yvonne, if we can flip over to the other page, I would be grateful. Okay, thank you very much. What we're showing here is this is the same format that we presented to Wright Technical Center. They are our partner that we work with in terms of our targeted services dollars. What's different on this form than what we provided to Wright Technical Center is that Rockford High School, students entering grade 9 or students in grades 9 through 12 are not eligible for targeted services dollars. So that's why we didn't include the Rockford High School data. What I would like to say is this data is subject to change because as I explained in our session 1, the focus is on students that really struggled in the second semester. And obviously we still have several weeks left of the school year. So we don't quite know exactly how many students will be in that mix at either the middle school or the high school. We will just have to be prepared either way for how that goes. And I also want to share with folks, we've had a really good response from our staff members that are willing to serve as a teacher, as a secretary, as a nurse, or as a substitute. And we need everyone. So really, really happy with that. So I'll just take you through this and we can take questions at the end. I'm sorry, I can't really see everyone. So I'll go through as effectively and efficiently as possible. The program name it's all 3 of our buildings, and it's summer learning opportunities. Our goal is to provide math and reading reinforcement in grades K-8 and to learn it in smaller groups and in different ways. And for our high school folks, it really comes down to credits and making sure those students get those credits to get them back on track to graduate or towards graduation. We are School District 883. The locations, we are prepared to look at locations at Rockford Elementary School, our middle school, our high school, and backed by very popular demand, Maple Hill Estates Hope Center. Last year, just for comparison, we had to go all virtual and we were not able to have a presence at Maple Hill. But we are very excited. We are going to be back and we're working out final details with the Jajewski family and the folks out there. So we're excited. Program description, it's designed to support at-risk students, learn at different ways, at different pace. This is free and it is also fully the family's choice. This is not mandatory. I know that question came up last meeting and I just want to reiterate, this is not a mandatory effort on the part of families, because we know people have many different plans. Grades served, K-12, we're excited about that. Education resources and curriculum, we will provide licensed teachers, curriculum that's in line with MCA test strands, and grade appropriate skill building exercises. What's also really nice, and I'm kind of getting into the next area, is we will have the FAST data from the spring. It's going to be as fresh as it can possibly be, late April, early May, and our summer teachers will have that information to create what's called the Continuous Learning Plan, or CLP. And just as we talked about at the last meeting, we are committed to taking the data of the learning this summer and sharing that forward with the next year's teachers. So if a student is working with fourth grade teachers this summer, that CLP information will be shared with that fifth grade team moving ahead. And I've heard that very clearly from our school board, that we want to make sure we are acting on the growth and really maximizing the opportunity and the experience for everyone involved. Rockford High School students, they'll be identified through grades in second semester, and if they failed a required class, that they need to graduate. Measures of success, as I mentioned earlier, the FAST universal benchmark, and measures of success. Well, I should say, we have the pre-data from May, and at the conclusion of the summer session, the students will take another FAST assessment. That's part of our relationship here, and we're really, really excited with our contractors and the ability to access that during the summer and then share that data with the next year's teaching team. For RHS, the measure of success is, and I should say for RMS and CES, for the June session, the focus is on second semester and earning those credits, enhancing those grades, getting that done, and that will be our measure of success. Now, these numbers that you're seeing here as I scroll down, the estimated number of students, this is as of April 15th in terms of the recommendations that we had received from staff. So you can see it graphically here. For kindergarten, I'll just read that across just so I can explain each cell. We had 24 recommendations of students of all of our kindergarten students. That includes distance learning. That might be in the back of some folks' mind. We absolutely invited our distance learning teachers to participate in these recommendations, and indeed they did. The Maple Hills recommendations, that's for session 3. So there are 7 students that were identified in our kindergarten level. We want to provide summer learning opportunities at Maple Hills between June 23rd and August 19th. We're looking at a 15-to-1 ratio or less, and we would need a couple staff. And this estimated FTE is what we're looking at. As I said before, we have extended or shared our budget with the folks at Wright Technical Center, and we'll get feedback from them very soon if they need to see any more information from us. So you can see K through 4, and then I want to make this distinction. Even though students let's talk about a kindergarten student. The kindergarten students could still work with a kindergarten teacher even though they're about to enter grade 1. Or another way to look at it, we would have fourth grade teachers working with these 34 students or so. They would not be working with fifth grade teachers. And the rationale for that is these fourth grade teachers, they know these kids after a year with them. They know where the gaps are. They know how to help these students, and now they'll be in smaller groups in order to reach them. We just don't believe in sending them to a whole new building with staff we've never worked with and staff that don't know the ins and outs of that student's learning experience. So that's just a little bit of an explanation there. For grades 5, 6, 7, 8, you can see the recommendations. And then same thing for high school. I have it starred here. We are not able to access targeted services for Rockford High School. So the resources needed to support these students would have to come from our MDE CARES funds that are slated for summer school. That's $4 per hour. And I'll touch on that in a moment. The proposed dates of the program, we went over this information last time, so I don't want to go over that too much in terms of redundancy. Staffing, I do want to scroll down to the staffing aspect. So you can see what our costs are for each session and what the revenue streams will be. So we pay our teachers at their hourly contract rate. The average is $39 an hour. So obviously it can be higher or lower than that, depending on who ends up teaching each section. We also pay teachers 10 minutes of prep time for every 50 minutes of instruction. So that impacts the daily wage. Teachers are paid benefits, TRA and FICA, that's at 15.78% of the hourly contract rate. We, for the first time, I believe, in the history of summer school, we will have a nurse in the district. That is our intent. That's our goal. That's our need. We've really stated that at the administrative level, so we can make sure we continue the COVID protocols into the summer. I think all of us are watching the news and seeing the COVID situation is not abating. It's intensifying in many areas around the world. The world. So we want to make sure we are as safe as possible. We also would have a secretary at each site, and that would help in several ways. It would help with our attendance, which is crucial in terms of being reimbursed. It's for every hour a student is with us. It's not just registration. So if a student isn't there, we need to make sure we're reaching out to that student, especially if we've staffed for a certain number of students. We need to make sure we're in touch with that family, and we're finding ways to encourage that student to get to their session. And that will also help with security. I tried to make this point at the last meeting, and I'd like to make it again, that whether it's September 20th or June 20th, these are school days, these are learning days. And every staff member, every student, and really every parent wants to have that idea and that notion that we are still following our security protocols. I can tell you from the administrative team, that is a really, really large focus, especially from our custodial. We want to make sure there aren't people in places they shouldn't be. We want to make sure we're protecting our resources, and having a secretary to control and manage communication and also access to the building is crucial in that effort. There also will be snacks, minimal amount of materials. That would be paper, markers, pens that folks might need. And then ACELS licenses, just to describe ACELS, that is our credit recovery program at the high school. So that cost is roughly $100 per student. There is a difference with the distinction here in the sense of, if a student already has an ACELS license and they're going to take 3 classes this summer, we don't have to buy them 3 new licenses. Once you have a license, you can take an unlimited amount of classes on that license. So that's kind of where we stand for our first session. And remember, session 1 is June 14th through the 24th. That would take place at the middle school and or the high school. And then session 2 and 3, they're occurring at the elementary school, the middle school, the high school. Session 3 occurs at Maple Hills. Still the same costs, but just to lay them out for everyone so you can see that. And then revenue. This is the money that's coming in. So for a student in K through 6, that's $4.92 per hour of attendance. For students entering grades 7 and 8, it bumps up to $5.41 per hour of attendance. So again, underscoring that need that we have accurate attendance, and that we're really reaching out to our families prior to summer school to make sure folks have all the information they need to be at summer school every day. And then we also have an additional revenue stream, and this is MDE CARES summer school funding. It's $4 per hour of attendance. I can't set that in stone yet because we're still waiting for the final number. What we were told in our conference call with Sean Carson and the Wright Technical Center group, and that involved summer school point people from everyone that's working through Wright Technical Center. We believe it'll be $4 an hour. It might be a little more, it might be a little less. So we're taking that into account as we build our budgets to make sure we have the most flexibility possible. I know I just threw a lot at you. Does anyone have any questions, any clarifications, anything I can answer or address for you?
All right, thank you, Dr. Scheidler. I'm just going to look across the board. Mr. Gordy.
Hi, thank you. So, Dr. Scheidler, looking at the revenues, are those the regular state monies for summer school based on attendance numbers? Because I believe, what is it, 11 pupils per section, and we can get state reimbursement for our summer school programs. Is that what that number comes from, or is that not part of it? Is that just the targeted revenue services?
It's targeted. From my perspective, it's targeted services, which it is coming through the state. It's just filtered through Wright Technical Center. So targeted services are those students that have been recognized that have a deficit in math and or reading. Mm-hmm. So that's our normal stream. I'll compare it to last year or years prior. The only revenue we were getting was that targeted services money. The revenue below it, that's CARES summer school funding, that is new, and we don't know if that will exist in future years, but that's new for this summer.
So when I assume when you're talking about CARES summer school funding, you're talking about Governor Walz's summer learning program or plan that is going through the House and Senate at this time.
Correct.
So my question, so I know that there is state reimbursement for summer school. So I understand the targeted services coming through Wright Tech. Are we assured that we're receiving as much revenue back that is possible for offering summer opportunities for our students, including that state reimbursement for having appropriately sized sections of summer school?
Well, I will, Mr. Gordy, I can certainly check on the appropriate. That's not something I'm familiar with, but I will absolutely look into it and send you a response on it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I just want to make sure that as important as remediation is for our students, credit recovery as well, I want to make sure that we're getting as much money back as we possibly can from our areas. And that state revenue is important because I'm just hopeful we're not missing out on some dollars being reimbursed by our state.
Mr. Gordy, I'll make sure I check into that. And as I said, I'll respond to Superintendent Dean, and she can share that information back with the board.
Beautiful. I also had heard that there is a proposal for extending the lunch programs out through summer, similar to what's going on this year. So I see you have snacks and different things. So there may be an opportunity to provide lunches for our children as well.
Yeah. And to address that point, that's actually something that came up at one of our recent, we had a focused meeting on summer school resources, whether it's costs or revenue. And in speaking with our business manager, who we just heard from, Tanley Lego, there were some things that had to be presented, ASAP, like already, like mid-April. We weren't able to provide that information because right now we don't know how many students we have. We do know at the very least, if students need a lunch to take with them, we can partner with Lunchbox Express through Thousand Hearts. So that's one option. And we'll absolutely look at every possibility of what can be provided and supported in terms of resources regarding lunches.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, if we can get, again, revenues coming in from our state to help offset that cost and not tax our community resources on top of it, that would be a great thing. Jenny, sorry, Jenny, I saw your eyebrows go up when I said that. The last question is, I would, as I stated, I agree completely with the credit recovery, as well as the remediation options or the boot camp options when we're getting ready for school to start again, to have skill improvement. I'm hopeful that in the future, we'll also be able to look at some enrichment opportunities to expand in our summer school in order to reap more benefits of that state revenue coming in for summer school opportunities. And I would also like to have a cost analysis breakdown of this eventually, early fall or something, because as we're talking about site license for ACE lists and materials and snacks, you know, what's our pluses and deltas in our finances for offering summer school. I would just, that would be a good thing later after this is all done.
I appreciate that, Mr. Gordy, and that's something we can, you know, kind of when we talk, we could probably combine it into the same meeting next fall in sharing. Here was the achievement data from the summer. Here's how that was shared with the future teachers. And we could also, to the degree possible, have the pluses and minuses of what we did indeed invest money in.
That would be outstanding. And now that we know that there are specific deadlines for asking for specific funds, it'd be good to have those on the calendar so we don't miss those opportunities again.
All right. Sure
Thank
thing.
you. Mr. Gordy, did you get all your questions answered? It looks like you've, all right, perfect. Looking across the board, anyone else have questions or comments? Yep, I see Miss Praska.
Okay, lowered my hand. Thank you. My internet is being wonky and won't let me open the document. Did you say what the dates are, or can you repeat them again? Because I can't. I'm sorry. I can't look that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There are, Beth, there are 3 sessions.
Okay.
And they are, the first session is June 14th through June 24th. And that's for the middle school and the high school. And really it's seen as a continuation of second semester. Who was close to passing those courses and could benefit from some help there. And I guess I should clarify this too. For the high school folks, we were looking at having a human in the building. I mean, human, like it's not just students sitting at home and the only option is to do ACEless. We'd like to have, it could be a counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be both in the building. So students, you know, sometimes they need just a little extra support and nudge to get over the hump. And that June session is for folks that are close in those second semester courses. Then our session 2, we anticipate to be our biggest session, and that is July 12th. We had to start a little later because of the 4th of July being on a Sunday, and then July 5th through the 9th being that week where there's really no state high school activities. We anticipate a lot of people traveling, including staff, and that would have been a difficult week. So we're starting July 12th, going through August 5th for session 2. And then session 3 is July 23rd through August 19th. The reason for the staggering is because at Maple Hill, they have their VBS, their vocational Bible school, the previous week.
Yep, and I know they like to set the dates for that, so I appreciate you honoring their request since they're housing the location. So, and I've mentioned this before, when you bring the data back in the fall, I'd also like to hear if we've considered or if there are plans to continue this, because oftentimes with targeted services, summer school's the beginning of that learning plan, and then it continues out. So it would be wonderful to see if we could look into continuing targeted services as 1 hour. A lot of times it's 1 hour after school for those select students. So that's just something to look into. And the funding generally is the same. So it would be something that I'd like to see added if possible.
Well, Beth, I think you used the metaphor of seeds last meeting, and I have a flower pot with just Post-it notes with Praska seeds.
Awesome.
And we will be ready. And I'll add some of Eric Gordy's, look as far as the financial piece and the pros and cons of the various resources we're investing in. So we will collect that data in real time and then be ready to report on that in the fall.
And generally, like targeted services, the students they bring the money in. So if we can get students to attend, then it's self-funding. So that's why it is an awesome opportunity, because the funding is there if we provide the students.
Yep. Yes. And we want to provide an experience that the students find in which they're engaged. And I appreciate what Mr. Gordy said earlier about enrichment. There's no shortage of ideas. There is a little bit of a shortage on bandwidth right now, just to try and do everything. But I think we absolutely want to explore every opportunity of how we can harness resources and give the kids a great experience.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure thing.
Great. Beth, you got all your questions answered, it sounds like. Great, thank you. Looking across the board, anyone else have any questions for Dr. Scheidler? Or comments? Nope, I'm not seeing any. Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Scheidler, for your presentation this evening and for the update for summer school. It's always exciting to be thinking about creating these opportunities for our kids over the summer months. So thank you for that, and appreciate the update this evening and how prepared it was. So thank you for that. Anything else before you go?
Hey, I just want to say thank you, Chair Edwards. Thanks, school board. Thanks, Superintendent Dean, and again, Director of Teaching and Learning, Kevin Keller, and really our entire admin team and our secretarial team. We've worked really hard and worked collaboratively to get the logistics straight. And now it's really exciting because, like I said, we have a lot of staff that are excited to engage in the summer, whether it's at the school sites or Maple Hill. There's folks that really want to get out to Maple Hill and work work with the students there in that neighborhood. So we're excited. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing how the summer goes. So thank you so much, Dr. Scheidler.
Sure
Enjoy
thing.
the rest of your evening. Take care.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Next, we'll jump into item number 6B, which is our middle school principal report, and I'll call on Dr. Anderson-Hume. Hello.
Oh, hello there, everyone. I forgot to tell Yvonne that I have a standing spot after all bond conversations in the agenda. Yvonne, future note. Sorry, I forgot to tell you. No, Tammy, I'm kidding. Boy, that stuff, thank goodness for business managers. I always feel relatively intelligent until those conversations come up, and then I don't. So I have lots of things to tell you as usual. Some upcoming events, some news there. Spring concerts is the first thing. So fortunately, we're holding on. We have kids in spring sports, and spring is an amazing thing because it's track. And so lots of kids get to take part in track and baseball and softball, and we have golf. And so lots of kids in spring sports. What's not happening though is our fine arts kids. And so we have band teachers and choir teachers that are really strong advocates for their program. And let's do concerts, let's do a concert. And so we've been having these conversations about, okay, what's the best way to do this? And you know, we always have to keep an eye on what's happening in the community with numbers and those kinds of conversations. And so we've been, Rhonda and Mr. Menard and myself and all of the teachers about, okay, what are we going to do? And at the middle level, we're going to go for outdoor concerts and pick a date and pray for sunshine. And we're going to give it a shot. And most likely we'll not have a makeup date if the weather is not good, just because we're talking about summer school, right? We just had that experience. So we're getting there. It's getting close. So the good news is we're going to go for it. 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade band and choir, folks. That's a good time. So look for those dates. We're going to get that taken care of very, very soon. Another thing, we missed our big events, right? Our STEM showcase this year, and then now in the spring, our evening of arts and academics, and having some really good conversations about next year. You know, do we have maybe combine those things and have one big event more in the spring so we can showcase more work and things like that, and really looking at the good things that this pandemic has brought in terms of being able to try some different things. And we really have come across some amazing things that we wouldn't have been able to try other than that. So like outdoor concerts, for example. So more on that as well as we figure these things out. The information piece, more on goals. You know, I always come to you and I talk about the same goals, which is the point, right? Slow and steady wins the race, and getting really, really good on the basics, the fundamentals, right? And really talking about power standards. And again, I know I bore you over and over about this, but boy, did getting that work with power standards save us for distance learning, and really having a solid idea of what is the most important thing that they need to do to learn, right, for next year and for this year. And then talking about assessment and really not only, you know, the quick formatives, but how do we make sure that that learning is lasting and appropriate in real world. And what we ended up having to do this year was something that I wasn't really planning on, but we looked at assessment in terms of distance learning. We didn't have any choice. So teachers that are heavily dependent on multiple choice tests, for example, now we have kids at home and you give a kid a multiple choice test. What do you think a middle school kid's going to do with a multiple choice test? They're going to pick up their cell phone and ask their friend what their multiple choice test looks like. And yeah, we're doing a lot of learning. And so we talk a lot about project-based learning, for example, and it is exactly what it says it is. It's, you know, creating a project that's theirs, right? Or creating a performance, or writing a song, or doing an oral test, or lots of different things that is really individual based. And so you can't copy it from someone, and it really is personal and involves a lot more time for the teacher, but it's time that is really important, because if a kid is away from the building, that relationship's important, right? And so we took the assessment knowledge that we had, that was good old traditional assessment knowledge, and how do you get that information about what kids know and can do and apply it immediately to the classroom? Oh, they're not in the classroom. You know, how do we transfer that? So that was our distance learning work this year in terms of assessment. The other really big piece of that was the equity piece, right? And so if you look at performance-based and project-based learning, that really helps you in terms of equity. And that was one of my professional goals this year, is to work with my staff on that. And so in terms of ability, Wi-Fi accessibility, in terms of adult supervision and support at home, in terms of materials I have at home, in terms of a quiet, structured workspace, all of those types of equity issues, a kid's going to be able to come with what they have, right? And a teacher's going to be able to have that relationship and work closely with the kid to get at what a student knows and can do about a specific standard that they're assessing. So again, that was our work a lot this year. I have bad news for you. I'm sorry. You know, we've been working on this standards-based thing, and it's been my dream for a long time to get the middle school standards-based 5th grade through 8th grade. And right before the pandemic hit, we were there. It was going to be a lot of hard work, and we were going to have a tight deadline, but we were there to move the building, and then we went home. And since, we've had to direct our attention elsewhere, and it's a big, heavy lift. And I don't know if you remember, a year and a half ago, I went through the document that I'm requiring my staff to do, where they have to go through each standard and unpack each standard and determine the depth of knowledge, and determine what the important vocabulary for kids are, and what the essential questions are, and go through each of the 4 corollary questions for PLCs. They have, and write rubrics, and they have to do this for each one of their power standards, right? And for our standards-based grading. And they don't have the time to do that right now, but that's not my big problem. My big problem is, I need parents. This is going to be a big deal for parents, right? And I need calm and quiet for parents. This is going to be a big deal, and I can't unroll this kind of a big deal when there's so many other big deals happening, because it's going to be a disaster, and the potential's there anyway, I think, when you're talking to parents about grading stuff. And so we're going to push it off for a year and do a super good job on it, versus trying to slam it home in the fall with a new tech director in a pandemic, if that makes sense. And I'm happy to answer more questions about that. Our other goal is our STEM environmental, and you saw I included some exciting pictures on that. I'll get there in a second, but we have had big conversations lately about losing a ton, and the things that we've lost in the building are really what make us special and what kids come to us for, if that makes sense. Our outdoor classrooms have saved us, when we're in the building, but our makerspace, for example, what we built and we're so excited about, and what we have a makerspace on wheels, right? And we get to bring that to kids, and kids get to come in at recess and work, and they get to come. And we had I just lost the name of the vacuum cleaner, the big not Shark. What's the other big vacuum cleaner company? They sent us all these vacuum cleaners, and kids got to take them apart and engineer them back together, right? And all these amazing things, and the robots, and they were building battle bots out of deli containers, outside of my office doors. And I mean, all these big, exciting things that were happening that we all had to put away, right? Our Lego wall, and we had to put all that stuff away. And I started making a list of all this, kind of made me sad, to be honest with you. We had students that engineered up our stairway. You remember that? They made, when we walk up the stairs, it made it musical notes at the STEM showcase. All that stuff had to be put away. We don't even have to go to the science museum. We had a group of 6th graders do that. The other thing is our STEM stuff was, our makerspace stuff, I mean, was amazing. We had a lot of plans to, our 3D printer, that's the other thing I'm looking at, in terms of having kids being able to really build the things that they've created. And in talking with kids and really spending a lot of time on our Fridays, one of the things that we did is we had baker experiences for kids, where parents had to bring them, of course, because it was on a Friday, we didn't have school, but they got to attend classes at Baker, outdoor survival type classes. And that really gave us some time to talk with kids and find out from the kids that are coming through Northwest Suburban to our magnet program, why are they coming? And it really is for the environmental. I mean, they're coming for a very specific reason, and they're coming for our school forest, and they're coming for our greenhouse now, and all the things that we offer that there's no one else that offers, right? And how excited we are to get back to that. And we really want to create an environmental powerhouse, because we're pulling kids like crazy. I mean, there is a definite stream of 6th graders coming out of Osseo right to our building. I already have 6. I have no ads and drops, but I have 6 6th graders already, because we just get these huge groups of 6th graders coming straight out of Weaver in Maple Grove, and keep coming, and we're going to keep building it. And so next, the greenhouse, right, which is lots of pictures that I included for you. And how happy are we about the greenhouse? And I think it's just completely beautiful. I'm really happy with it. And thanks to Rhonda, and I think Jim is here, and poor Jim. I'm sorry, Jim. This greenhouse was talked about long before I got here, and I've been talking about it for 4 years. And of course, I'm getting really serious about it right before the pandemic hits. And I keep joking about it's a plastic house on a vacant lot. I don't understand why it's this difficult, but it's up and it looks great. And I see, water barrels under the cool gutters, and I see a really cool composting setup for the kids, and all the grants we can write for that, and all the lessons that would incorporate, and hanging baskets hanging from it, and a patio out front with bricks that people can donate with their family's name on it, or something dedicated to, like my mom, who was super into gardening, Irene Hume, and donate a block to make a patio with picnic tables for an outdoor classroom, and planters that people can donate. And I mean, I just see this beautiful. Oh, and then on a Saturday, I don't even know how I got involved with this. I was looking at Facebook and came across Rockford Gardening Club. I don't know if anybody has heard of this, but I started having these conversations with all these people who I didn't know in Rockford area who are gardeners. And one of them, hey, you're the principal of the greenhouse. And so there's a senior living home very close to the middle school, right? And one of the parents said, there are several people who live there who would love to have a little garden plot. And I thought, well, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be a cool thing to do right next to the greenhouse? Have little garden plots for some of our seniors. It's within walking distance of their senior living setup, right? And how amazing it would be for our kids to develop relationships. And certainly seniors are a population that we need to develop strong relationships with our school system, and our FFA kids could be out helping them. And so I sent an email to Melissa and I said, hey, Melissa, do you know of community ed in any other district that maybe has garden plots that people could come and use? And ask, include a gym with that. Again, just big conversations for down the road, but an amazing place to pull community in that we haven't been able to do. And lots and lots and lots. I think I had 15 senior citizens message me about, is this greenhouse going to be able to be accessible by seniors? Like, can I literally walk into, and I'm like, yep, we put right across from a parking lot, completely flat. There's already a tar path. Like having classes to make those cool Christmas things, with the birch sticks and the pine things everybody likes to make at Christmas. That'd be the greatest community ed class ever, right? So we're super excited about it, and the kids are excited about it, and our math classes are already writing lessons about measuring it and laying it out, and the kids are going to design, mathematical lessons about what they think it should look like and what part should be garden, garden beds and classroom, and yeah, don't get me started. Yeah, it's probably a good thing Matthew went first and wound me down a little bit, but yeah, I'm super excited about the greenhouse. So, okay, I'll stop. I'm sure you have questions for me.
I couldn't tell you're excited about the greenhouse, Dr. Anderson.
The kids are, it's going to be a game changer for us.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tremendous amount of work. It's going to be a tremendous amount of work. And the foundation, of course, the partnership that we have with them is just tremendous. And that'll continue to move forward, but it's again, slow and steady, but it's going to be completely kid driven. They're going to determine how it's used, what the layout is, right? And there's nothing in that building that we can't write a grant for. It's going to be amazing. And that was the whole design for it, because we knew that there are a ton of grants for that stuff out there. And it doesn't have to be reoccurring expenses for that stuff. Tables, right? I mean, we don't have to buy tables every year for the greenhouse.
Mhm.
So it has everything it needs right now. We built, and it's the building. It's got the heat in it. It's got a couple fans. It's got power to it. It has the essentials. There's a water tower next to it. We got everything we need right now. So yeah.
Awesome. I'm just gonna quick look across the board. Questions for Dr. Anderson Hume? I am not seeing any across the group this evening. So thank you. Thanks for that update. I think one of the questions that I have really quick, you had mentioned with the makerspace and kind of that being a core, like the engineering side of our school and all of that. And with the pandemic, some of that was taken away. What are we doing right now with the kids back in school to, maybe it's not in the big maker space where, they were all together, but how are we creating different opportunities like that, given some of the since it is so core, right?
Right. What we do is so this is why we had this set up with the cohorts in the middle school. We knew that there was no way that we were going to keep kids apart at this age. They don't say hello. They push each other into lockers. I mean, it's just how they're wired right now. And the supply thing, right? There's so many hands-on things in our curriculum that we knew that we weren't going to be able to just not keep things from being shared. So if we have a core group of kids that are always together, they're always touching each other's stuff, we have supplies and that's how we get around it. So that group of kids, because they're always together, they just share the supplies. So we do that with library books. We do that. I mean, now we've opened up the library and we just do it differently, but originally that's how we did it. This is your cart, you all can touch these, and then we'll park them in the back room for 2 days. And
got it. So that's what you're talking about with the mobile, like the mobile makerspace carts and all that. Cool. Okay, great. Thank you for that. And then so exciting to see the greenhouse up, and the pictures are amazing, and the real building is even more amazing. And I'm excited to hear and see from the kids. So hopefully at a future board meeting, someday in the future, we'll be able to get kids back in our board meetings and hear from them how they've designed it and pulled it together. And I love the connection with our senior community too, and just again, gardening and nature and environment. It's also very healing. So thank you for just making all of those really intentional connections, because it's pretty cool.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to see
Yeah.
everybody.
Good to see you. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, jumping into our next agenda item. One moment, please. Our community ed update. Our director, Melissa Joseph. Welcome.
I almost, wasn't ready because I don't normally go this early, so pretty excited.
I know.
So
7:46.
Mhm. Hello, everyone. So just a quick community ed update. Our class offerings are finally starting to get back to a normal amount of offerings. And everything we have been offering is still filling up. We have a new RC racing that we're going to be having coming up May 27th. Already over my minimum requirement in order to pay the company that's coming out to do it. We're hoping to do it outside. We do have the high school gym reserved in case it's inside. But just also trying to add some new classes since we are back unable to, offer so many classes. Summer is shaping up, and I should have that out to everyone by May 1st. Online brochure, we're still not doing the printed brochure. It's just still in this year, especially still trying to do a cost savings, but everything that I've been putting out just through Infinite Campus has been filling up anyway and seems to be getting to the appropriate families. But we are going to do the brochure, actually create it so for the spring or for the summer, so people can still flip through pages of our offerings. So that's super exciting. Oh, I said May 3rd, May 1st, May 3rd. I just want to give everyone an update. I'm also on the Chamber of Commerce board, and so we are going to be, it's kind of something that the Community Ed Expo is kind of something that the district just has always done and has fallen on Community Ed. I mean, the chamber's there and they have the members, but it's more going to definitely be more of a collaborative thing this year. And so save the date. We have chosen a fall Community Expo. It's normally in March, the third weekend in March. We're just trying to change up the theme and get some more people to come. And we thought the fall would be a good idea. So right now we are slating that for Saturday, October 30th. We figured out all the businesses hand out candy anyway, might as well just start Halloween early. So that's really cool. We're working on totally revamping it and having a theme to it. I think I've mentioned this to you guys before. Having maybe an RV show come or ice castle show, since we're going to put it back into the community center. And so we can pull things right in through that big door into the community center. We've also thought of having Taste of the Town. So then that way all the restaurants in the area can come and showcase their food. And so, I know I'm always looking for a good place to go out to eat. So that's kind of just our ideas, and we're working on that. We set a date, and then our next couple of months are really ramping it up, and so we can get registrations and get it all set. Moving on to preschool, our early childhood program. So registration is already opened. It opened February 1st. Our numbers are very comparable to pre-COVID numbers, which we are very happy about. So our registration numbers right now are looking good because, this fall we were down. We did not run afternoon classes, which is unusual for us on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So right now looking at our numbers, and we'll still get more. You know, we always get more throughout the time. We're only like 2 shy of what we normally are this time of year. So that's very, very good. Same thing with Summer Galaxy registration. I mean, we are pretty consistent. That the deadline though is May 15th, so we'll have a better idea of where we stand. So hoping that we're just not stopped at the registrations that we're at right now. It's more than last summer because of course last summer was very COVID related. So, but that is also very close to pre-COVID numbers. So we're very excited about that. So community ed overall is looking very good moving forward for the summer with class offerings and registration numbers for preschool and Galaxy. So that's super exciting in our world. And then I just want to talk because we're also in charge of rentals in community ed. So our rental numbers are slowly starting to rise again, which is good because that's a source of revenue for the school district. So they're slowly starting to rise again. So I have track coming back. I have several soccer entities coming back. So Wright County Soccer. I have another one, Alchemy Soccer. So you know, that's really where we're standing on rentals. And as far as the community center, you know, with spring coming around, we're definitely not up to our pre-COVID numbers as far as memberships. But the thing is, spring is also coming. So I think by next fall, we'll probably be back up closer to where we normally are. But with spring coming, especially these couple, not today, obviously, or tomorrow, but you know, those couple of weekends that we had that were up in the 70s and 80s, people just not renewing their membership because now they can work out outside, which we always have a few people pause their membership anyway over the spring and summer. So, but the community center, we're still doing okay, and we are looking for next fall for that to really stop or start getting up to pre-COVID numbers as well. People are definitely coming back. Even though they have to wear a mask even while they're working out. I have done it on a treadmill inside. I mean, I'm very out of shape, so that doesn't help, but it's a hard task. So, but people are doing it and you do get used to it. That's probably my problem is I just don't do it enough. So I haven't gotten used to it yet, but, and that's it. That's community ed report. Any questions?
Any questions for Melissa?
Awesome. Jenny.
It's not so much a question. I just wanted to officially congratulate you on your position that we voted on tonight. So congratulations, MJ.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. Thank you for approving that and not having any questions. And thank you, Rhonda, for putting that in the personnel agenda. Much appreciated. I feel very fortunate to work for the district. And I know I put a lot of hard work in to get my license, but I also feel that I had a lot of trust and support from the school district. And so the hard work was well worth the trust and the support that I had from all of you. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. And Jenny, thank you for lifting Melissa up as our new official director.
Thank you.
One question that I do have for you, Melissa, and not to put you on the spot, so this might just be something for maybe next time or things to think about, but are there any things that the board needs to think about from like improvement, equipment improvement, facility, like things for the community center and community ed, just that needs to be on a radar? And again, future conversation, but that's just sometimes top of mind for me. I'm super excited to hear that things are starting to, you know, recover and people are using our building again. I'm excited about the Fall Expo and just partnering with the chamber that way. Just lots of really awesome things there. But yeah, top of mind for me is, you know, is there anything as we continue to build out the programming and that the board would just need to think about in the future.
I think just one thing that we did and that Brady had mentioned last year, we will eventually need to, like right now, we've decided to, we're renting treadmills, which is great because then we can re-rent and we get newer ones because, treadmills, obviously, some of them we have in there, we actually own. And so when they're gone, they're gone. Like we're not going to pay, because at that point, the amount of money you pay to fix a treadmill, you might as well just rent a new one or buy a new one. So that would be my only thing right off the top of my head that I can think of is there's some equipment that is quite old in the community center. I mean, workout equipment is sometimes like computers. It doesn't last, especially with the use that it gets in a commercial setting. So that would be out, but I want to move forward with renting. It's much more fiscally responsible for us than buying. And along with that, you get, if something goes wrong with it, because you're renting it, it's free repair. So when you purchase it, you also have to pay for the repairs, but through rental. So that's been working out great for the treadmills that we've been renting. So as we move forward, that's something else, but
okay,
we'll look at it through that lens again.
It would be great too to make that a topic, perhaps for feedback in the community ed advisory council too, Melissa. Get members' feedback from the community on what they see is needed potentially, and just factor that into your planning. However that works. So yeah.
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow night, so that'll be
we sure do.
It'll be fresh in my head. So
timely. Awesome. Yep. Well, thank you so much for the update this evening. I'm going to scan the board one more time. Any other comments or questions? I'm seeing none. So thank you. Thanks, Melissa. Have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Next, jumping into item number 7B, which is our building and grounds update. Director Lohr, welcome.
Welcome. I just a little late because I sent Erin she's texting me and asked me for a link to get on the Zoom, so she didn't have a link. So sorry to pause there for a few seconds. Thanks for having me tonight. Just an update. Back in February, we discussed moving forward with LED lighting in bright schools, and an update on that. Talked to the supervisor today this morning, and they're done with phase 2. They're almost completed with phase 3 at the middle school. They feel they'll be done with phase 3 at the middle school on Wednesday. Their biggest challenge right now is the gymnastics gym, but they think they got that figured out. And then from there, they've already started dropping fixtures and stuff at the elementary, and they'll be taken on phase 3 at the elementary. So these guys and gals just go hammer through the stuff just like crazy. They just put it up and very seldom leave a mess. And I was complimenting them. I was complimenting them through the whole process up until last Thursday when they came in and did a couple of district office lights, just DO lights. They ended up leaving a little bit of ceiling dust on some of the stuff. And I said, if any place to leave a mess, it's not the district office. You could leave it in my office or Rhonda's office, but not the district office. So, but they got it. They're very good to work with. They are very efficient. The thing that really holds them up is getting the fixtures. When they come through that Suez Canal thing, and that really held up a lot of fixtures. So that put them behind the rope a little bit. I'm in the process of creating, and I'm not creating, I've already created this when I first started, updating my 1, 3, 5, 10-year plan on capital expenditures, and also working with ICS, Ryan Hoffman with the 10-year LTFM plan that gets readjusted every year. But I'm updating that, getting that finalized. The third item is COVID flooring. Everybody talked about when we went into COVID in my industry of how is the disinfectant going to affect the wax on the floors and the finish on the floors. And I don't think anybody really realized the effect it was going to have until it's starting to show up. I got some calls before spring break. The classrooms were really looking dirty. They weren't getting mopped, they weren't getting cleaned at the elementary. And so I went over and looked at it and knew right away that all of our wax is off the floors on our tile floors. And mostly in our early childhood rooms, our galaxy rooms, where the kids are on the floor quite a bit. Excuse me. And so with the downfall of that, it's down to the tile, which has ground dirt into the tile, which we won't be able to get out. So I got to spend a ton of money on flooring replacements. So we'll be doing a major flooring replacement this summer at the elementary school because of the tile and it's just gone. And I don't think anybody in our industry has realized the effect that we are going to have at the end of the school year. We are going to replace it with a tile. They call it, and I think it's the wrong name, but it's a luxury vinyl tile, which is a no wax tile, which will cost us a little bit more square footage wise, but in the long run, with less maintenance and cost of labor and waxing it, and more durable against disinfectant, we will save money probably in the first or second year, and more convenient for the teachers in the classrooms, especially Galaxy that only closes for 2 weeks out of the year, and we need to get in there and clean it, scrub it, wax it, all that stuff in 2 weeks is pretty tough. So Jessica helped out by going with throw rugs instead of carpet in half of it, which is really going to help because we can never get the carpet clean as we'd like to for those little kids in those rooms. So thank you, Jessica, for that. Just an update on staffing. Like everybody else, I'm still too short, 2 people staff. I think we'll get it fixed in facilities and every place else. In the years that I've been in facilities, it's kind of like a roller coaster. We have some really tough years, and then all of a sudden it comes back, and the economy kind of goes down a little bit, and then everybody wants to be a custodian, and hopefully that comes back a little bit. Not getting many applications. I do have one person that might be close to it that I'm working on, but we still haven't replaced Corey's position yet. We just haven't gotten any applications, so that's a big hit, especially going into summer. This will be the year that it's going to show that we're missing Corey, because Corey pretty well ran everything with setup sports, just did everything with our seasonal workers and got them going and stuff. So there'll be a little bit of a learning curve with that, but that'll show up this summer. We'll get it figured out then. Just been gearing up for spring sports the last few weeks. You'd think that we're done with snow and everything's put away, and then we get snow. And so luckily it melts. After the last couple of years, we had snow late, and they want to take the snow equipment off as soon as the sun comes out, in the middle of March. And it's like, no, we still can get no snow on April 15th. So we're ready to take that stuff off now and get rid of it. Safety committee, partnering the last couple of months. Aaron and I have been partnering together, working with our workers' comp company, SFM, and our broker, MMA, and working with our workers' comp and creating a safer culture for Rockford schools, and working, the two of us working together. I'll just say, Erin's been here, I don't know, 3-4 months, but it seems like she's been here for 20 years because she's so good. And we just bounce ideas off each other, and we've made some really good progress about safety and committees. And we're going to start a new system with our safety committee, which is going to be coming rolling out here pretty soon with our next DAT plus meeting. We're meeting, I think it's Thursday, Aaron and I to put the ground rules together and get that started. So I'm pretty excited to be working with that and change our culture a little bit with safety and be more safer and get our workers' comp premiums down in the future. So she's a good egg about that. The last thing I want to talk about is facility committee. As some of you know, we have some pretty large expenses have been hanging there for quite a while. And we can't keep kicking the can down the road. And the only way we're going to sit down and really identify what we really need to do is I've talked to Superintendent Dean, we need to create a safety facility committee. Along with that, it's a starting point of where what we need to do, what we need to fund, the facilities need. We need to talk about the future. We need to talk about, there's a lot to talk about. And I think we threw it around a little bit, Rhonda and I, and she may talk a little bit more of this direction, but ICS, which is our construction management company that we usually use, they also are the ones that did our facility studies 2 summers ago, has done facility committees before. So her and I talked to Ryan a little bit from ICS, and there's no sense for us to invent the wheel that already exists. And we can sit here and say, you know, this is what we need to do and how to do it and everything else. And they've worked with so many different school districts successfully. And I would suggest that we look at that process eventually, sooner than later. One of the things I would like to discuss is seeing if there's any board members that would like to sit on that committee as we start the process, because we're going to need a couple board members on there just to get involved with it. Rhonda, do you want to talk a little bit more about this, or do you want to just wait? Informational with ICS?
Chair Edwards, may I speak?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry. I'm
no,
not familiar with the protocols yet.
No, I was going to speak a little bit about the facilities committee during my report. But it is something that I know is in line with some of the board priorities that we've discussed over the past several months. And so in talking with Jim and knowing the direction that I know the board wants to go, and again, following up on some discussions that we've had, I think the facilities committee approach is the right approach. And really hoping that a couple of board members are interested in participating on that committee. And I just kind of assured Jim that I thought that there would be that type of engagement, given the fact that I know what the board has expressed an interest in our strategic planning process. So yeah, just wanted to start having those conversations and kind of aligning it with some of the other things that we've talked about even this evening. I mean, we had a bond discussion earlier this evening, but just really trying to align all of our initiatives, kind of getting everything working in the same direction. So yeah, Again, Jim is introducing it for the first time, and you'll hear more about it over the next several months, several months, but has to start somewhere. And we'd like to have those discussions. And Ryan from ICS is familiar with our district. He's familiar with our facilities. It's something that his organization has facilitated in the past. And so we feel real comfortable and confident in his ability to help walk us and navigate us through this process.
Great. Thank you, Rhonda, for that update. And I think one of the things that we had talked about during our strategic planning was, because we did talk about a facilities committee as a potential, and we had also talked about maybe aligning it with the operations committee. So there's so many different committees to consider and how this, but so Jim, bottom line is, I think, as a board, we talked about the need to have some sort of a structure to help have the right conversations about our facilities, and how that all comes to bear would obviously require your input, Superintendent Dean's input, and thinking about how, like, the different structures and how they all come together. And I think one of the things we did toss around is, where does the operations committee fit with some of the long-term facilities planning, and is that a natural spot for it or not? And we can keep talking about that too. But yes, thanks for lifting that up.
Yeah, so just, Madam Chair, just a timeline on so thinking ahead, and keeping the LTFM funding timelines and everything else, getting some information from ICS. If we want to do something 2 years out, or even start looking at doing some things at 2 years out, we need to start looking at planning early this summer into fall, so we can get things done. It's usually another year or two that rolled over. So I just want to share some timeframes that once we decide on LTFM, if we haven't decided on selling bonds or whatever, then it may go another year or two after that. So it takes a little bit. I just wanted to share that information with you. So next year, our LTFM will stay intact because we don't have a plan yet, but at some point maybe we'll use LTFM to pay some bonds or something to fix parking lots. I know you've probably been through some of our parking lots lately, and they are not in the greatest shape. And we're waiting for some asphalt companies to open up so we can fix them. So I just want to give you a quick timeline, and I know you understand that. So
yeah,
if anybody's got any more questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Lohr? Great. Yeah, and I think some of it is long-term planning and short-term immediate needs, and I think it's a both and, right? And I think that's where hopefully this facilities committee or operations committee, or however it all comes to bear, it should be that spot to have that right visibility to those key issues. So, and then thinking about if we need to ask for different funding sources and things like that, it all starts to come together, right? Yep. Eric, did you have something you're about to say or no? Nope. Perfect. All right. Well,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for the update tonight. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your evening. All right. Next, we'll jump into item number 7C, which is our staff recognition program. There's items in your packet that hopefully you were able to review and pre-read, and I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Dean.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Chair Edwards. So you have in your board packet the proposal for the staff recognition program, and it's exactly as years past. And so I know you've had an opportunity to look at it and review what we've done in the past, especially the new board members. But just a couple of things, because as you notice, this is a briefing and an action item. In terms of the action item, well, before we get to the committee, was there any thoughts about changing the way we have recognized our staff in the past? At the end of the school year, traditionally, we've had a staff breakfast, and we'll continue to honor that tradition. And this year, the breakfast will be on the Monday after the last day of school, which is Monday, June is Monday, June 7th. It's actually a full day for our staff, unlike years past, when it's been a half a day. It is a full day, but we'll have a breakfast again, like years past. And again, either have a program like we've had in the past, or again, offering up any changes. So I guess that's the first question, if the board would like to continue with our current practice and how we recognize the board, recognize the staff. And as you can see that there's a section for retirements, years of service, the 5, 10, 15 year, 20 year, 25 year, and 30 year. And then how we acknowledge those. And then we have actually 3 awards that we have given out over the past several years. That's the School Board Star Award, the Leadership in Education and Excellence Award, and the Education Support Staff Award. So first of all, I guess the question is if there's, if the board would like any changes to how we've recognized our staff in the past. Jessica?
Jessica?
Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I'm fine with that. I was gonna just kind of say my opinion about whether breakfast or, because it's been more of a lunch. The breakfast is always the beginning of the school year, and it's more of a brunch lunch that we do at the end of the year. But I just wanted, when we get to that point, I'll give my 2 cents on that. So I'm fine with the awards that we do, unless Rhonda, you have some other great ideas. I mean, you've been in several districts, you've seen it done different ways. If there's something you think that would be awesome for our district to start doing, let's look at it. I mean, if you have any great ideas, let us know.
Yeah, you know, I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it done with breakfast. I've seen it done as a luncheon. It's been my experience though that with the luncheon, teachers, you know, they're anxious to get out. So that's why I just suggested the breakfast. But one of the things that I'm going to ask for in just a moment is a couple of members of the board to volunteer to be on a nomination committee. And I would ask that committee maybe to weigh in on if we wanted to change anything also. So not that we couldn't move to a luncheon, we absolutely can, but I would ask that the committee be part of that conversation. So really 2 action items for the board. Number 1, just if we want to keep the program the way we've done in years past. And then the second action item, Chair Edwards, would be to get a couple of board members willing to review the nominations. Because if you can see, there's a timeline on the proposal here. And that timeline involves us sending out something, an email, a message, if you will, to the staff for nominations for the various awards. And then bringing, of course, those nominations back to a small committee, which I'm hoping we have 2 board members at minimum that would be interested in serving on that committee to review the nominations for the 3 specific awards, and just to be a part of that process.
Great. Thank you for kind of lifting this up and presenting this agenda item. Superintendent Dean, any questions for Superintendent Dean? No. So really what the first action item is just, you know, really looking at our annual recognition program as presented. I think it's important to call out that any monetary gift certificates are subject to in-kind donors from the community as presented in the packet. But otherwise, it's really, you know, no monetary recognition by vis-a-vis gift cards and things like that, unless it's done by an alternate or by a donor. And then, yeah, our standard star award and Leah and the resource awards. So with that, I think we'll take this as a formal just motion to first, we'll start there to just approve this as presented for this annual recognition program. So we'll start with that.
Are we discussing if it's going to be, when it's going to be? Because So Rhonda, being that it's not a half day, it was always, you know, a brunch lunch because it wrapped up that half day and everybody got to leave afterwards, right? They were done. If we were to change it to a breakfast, which I personally feel since it's a whole day, a breakfast would be a way better idea to start your day with it, and then they can go and get their stuff done the rest of the day, rather than what we've done in the past is 10:30 they meet. So they work a little bit and then they'd have to, you know, all meet together and then they'd have to go back and work again. And I think that might be
Yeah.
not received very well.
And Jessica, I don't know that setting the date and like the time and it would be board work necessarily where we'd have to set that. I don't think we've ever done that.
Okay. Rhonda had talked about that and asked about that.
Yep. No, I
So
think
I was didn't know if that was part of what we were.
Nope. We're just approving the recognition awards and things like that at this point in time.
Perfect.
Yep.
So if there's no opposition to the format, then we'd like to maintain the format that we've used in the past.
Yep. So that's a request by the district. With that, would anybody want to put action forward as it relates to that?
Can you clarify what you're asking for, Amy? Sorry.
Yep. So what we're asking for is Superintendent Dean just presented the annual recognition program, which is prepared in your packet. And in order for her to proceed, she just needs to have kind of an action item or a general approval from the board that, yes, indeed, we agree with continuing to participate in the Leaders in Educational Excellence Award process. We agree in the Educational Support Staff Award. We agree in still doing the STAR Award. And then we agree with the retirement, you know, items as presented, and then how we would recognize years of service, as well as a sequencing of that 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, those sort of things. So she's really just asking for support and endorsement of the annual recognition program as presented. And then our next conversation will be around who wants to be on the committee to help take a look at some of those applications that come through. So
basically, you're looking for a motion.
I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept the staff recognition program as noted in the agenda
packet.
Great. Not the agenda, the board meeting minute. Yeah, the board meeting.
All right, I have a first from Beth Praska. Do I have a second?
Second, Jessica.
Second from Jessica Johnson. Any further discussion or comment? All right, pending no further discussion or comment, Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
Beth Praska.
Aye.
Amy Edwards. Aye. The annual recognition program passes as presented. Thank you, Superintendent Dean. The one other thing that I would just add as it relates to recognition in this kind of general topic, I would love for the district to think about ways to recognize staff on an ongoing basis and not just wait for annual. And now that we have Erin here in her role, I would just love the district to be thinking about different ways, like, like, hey, I saw you do a good thing awards, just like day-to-day stuff, but different conversation for a different day. But just that, I think we've talked about it as a board, the culture and climate and all of that. And there's so much good work that's going on in this district that only recognizing it once a year, there's probably multiple ways that we can do it every single day. So anyway, perfect. Thank you. And then next, how are we going to, who would like to be on the committee? So Jenny, just by way of orientation, every year, 3 members of the board partner with the superintendent to review any applications that are submitted for the 3 main awards as presented in the packet, the School Board Star Award, the Leaders in Educational Excellence Award, and the Educational Support Staff Award. And so we just, if anyone is interested, please lift up your voice and we'll just note that for the record.
Me.
All right, Jessica Johnson is interested. Anyone else interested?
I'd be happy to participate.
All right, thank you. Brady Anderson is interested, and we need a third member. Jenny, you gotta unmute yourself and you gotta say it out loud.
I will gladly do that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now we've got 3 members that have already said their names. Is there anyone else that is really interested that wants to put your name out there? Otherwise, we will ask these 3 to represent the board in reviewing these nominations. So for the record, we've got Brady Anderson, Jessica Johnson, and Jenny Nealand partnering with Superintendent Dean on that process. Any objections to that? Not seeing any. All right. I don't believe that requires a formal motion or anything like that. So I don't think we've ever done that in the past. All right. Good. Well, thank you. All right. Next, we'll move on to our next topic, which is item number 8, which is 8A school board meeting location discussion. Again, there's a pre-read in your board packet that the district office or superintendent dean and team put together based on the discussion that we had at our last work session. So hopefully the team had an opportunity to pre-read it. Superintendent Dean, I'm going to turn it over to you to add any highlights or any key considerations, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Chair Edwards. So in your board packet, of course, is our proposal. And we as the board we have been virtual since October. I think we had 1, maybe 2 board meetings in the fall in person, and then we had to shift to.
Did we do the double replacement thing through Encompass?
Yvonne, can you help with the phone that's unmuted, please? Thank you.
So what you have in front of you is a proposal to have our board meetings back in person. So I hope you had an opportunity to review. Can you hear me? Okay, so I hope the board had an opportunity to review our proposal to come back in person, at least for the May and June board meetings, and then we can reassess over the summer. But if you notice in the board packet, the location will be moved, at least for this next board meeting, if we choose to move in this direction. We'd move to the RCC, which is, of course, the community center, in those 3 rooms, therefore providing us with a lot of space to spread out. We've been able to work with our new director of technology and the director of community ed to check the sound system, as well as Jim Lohr, to check the sound system and to make sure that we would be able to function as a board in that space. We would actually move the microphone setup from the Heritage Room into the RCC. Jeff's looked at the sound system and has indicated that we can do that. Jim Lohr, who just spoke with us earlier, has looked at the space in terms of the square footage of the 3 rooms, and you have an attachment in your board packet, and that is provided by our director of buildings and grounds. And so you can see the capacity that we can hold in that room. And so we think that we can truly have an in-person board meeting next month and do it in a safe, controlled environment.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent Dean. Any questions for Superintendent Dean about the proposal that was presented? Mr. Anderson.
Yeah, so I just looked at like the sound system. What about video? And so if we're just going to be moving it as is from the Heritage Room to the RCC, I think that's fine. But what would be great is like if perhaps there was an infection of a board member, couldn't be present. The one thing that COVID has given us is it's leveled the playing field in terms of how people experience online meetings. Instead of the one person that's like not present in the room, can't see who's speaking, or it's just it's not the same experience as being in person. So I would suggest not just migrating the sound system, but also looking at the AV setup, generally speaking, to ensure that if there are remote participants or remote board members, not everybody can be at the same place, you know, due to whatever, maybe there's an outbreak or something, I don't know. But just looking at leveling up our setup a little bit there so that we can have a better setup than just audio, you know, for people that might be at a distance. So I would just encourage us to look at that. I'm not saying you need to go and do that, but I think we can do better than just the audio system that we had in place in the Heritage Room. So looking at how potentially we could level that up a bit would be my recommendation.
Thank you for that, Director Anderson. I'm going to have to default to the board on that because it's my understanding that the board, there was a resolution, I want to say it over a year ago, that we were going to record the audio of our board meetings, and we started doing that. And so when I mentioned the sound system, it's literally going back to where we were in the past, and that was recording the audio of our board meetings. We were never recording the video of our board meetings, and I didn't want to take the liberty to add that when that was not the board's position.
That's not the intent of my comment, Rhonda. We can still just record the audio. That's fine. I'm just talking about if there's remote meeting participants, right? Not just having a line to dial into and everybody's talking into one computer microphone, for example, which is what typically happens. I'm just talking about a more flexible way to host remote participants for the board meeting. I'm not talking about the recording portion here.
Right. And then, so what I'm suggesting, and again, this is why we're having the discussion. We would not provide the online aspect. According to MSBA, that would not be a requirement of the board to provide that option. I'm truly suggesting that we go back to just a regular in-person board meeting where we record our audio. And again, if that's something that the board wants to do differently, then I'm open to that suggestion. But of course, it's your meeting, so I'll take the direction from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Brady, if I might just jump in, is that all right? I think I hear what you're saying too.
I do too.
So I think, well, there's two things. One is getting us back to status quo, getting us all back in person, and just getting us back to recording and posting the audio files, which is, again, what that original resolution was for regular board meetings. I think one of the things that we do need to consider, which I think is the consideration that Director Anderson is raising, is we are still in the midst of a global pandemic with COVID, and there is always a possibility, theoretically, that a board member would have to quarantine or isolate and wouldn't be able to be in person, in theory, in the boardroom. So I think or a staff member, right? Theoretically, a staff member that needs to present. And so I think it's one of those things where if in the instance that were to happen, today, right now, we're all on video and we can see each other and we're doing our business and the pandemic doesn't matter. But if we're in person and that does happen to somebody where they do need, in fact, to quarantine, what is our alternative scenario? I mean, that is one issue potentially that could come up and then there's the other part of future state, how do we leverage technology to have better, more effective board meetings, Zoom people in, those sort of things. And that's a different conversation, I think, versus making sure that we're just creating the space in the midst of the pandemic. That's my kind of 2 cents to add to that. Just nothing that would in my opinion, stop up the conversation right now, but just, it would be good for our technology team to have a plan B in the event that somebody does need to remote in because of something related to COVID.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the resolution or the action item here. It's great, but yeah, to Amy's point is, what if somebody has to be remote? I think, we've learned a lot about how to leverage technology for remote meetings. let's not just go to the back to the old, have somebody dial in via Google Voice and everybody speak loudly into one person's computer. I mean, that's just not an effective way to conduct a meeting. So I would, you know, yes, I'll vote yes on this, but let's, I would also advise us to think about and prepare for and be ready for hosting somebody at a distance that needs to participate in the meeting in an effective manner. Because I would say the way that we did it before was ineffective.
Well, and just Brady, to that point, we wouldn't have. So pre-pandemic, we wouldn't have.
Yes. Yeah, it was, I think, a work session that I dialed into for at a distance previous.
Work session,
so, yeah, it was brutal. So
yeah, fair enough. But like a real, but like a real board meeting, I mean, there are certain rules and things that have to be in play if we're making decisions, taking votes, all of those sort of things. So.
Absolutely.
Yep. Cool. Jenny?
Yeah, my question is on the paragraph regarding capacity. It says that the board and certain staff members and people like that will be included in there. And then we can accommodate 18 to 24 members of the public. If more than 24 members of the public come in, we would all move to the Heritage Room. Let's say that 25th member of the public comes in after we had already started. Would we then have to pause the meeting and restart it when we get to the Heritage Room? I don't know if you can explain some of the details kind of behind that.
Yeah, these are all good questions, Jenny. Well, the reason why that was the default move is if we had 18 to, up to 24 members of the public come to our board meeting, which over the past couple of years, I have never seen that many members of the community attend our board meetings. But that's not to say that that couldn't be a thing. But for me, the easiest way to remedy that would be for the board to then leave and go to the Heritage Room, because of that smart board or that smart board is in the RCC rooms. We would then project from the Heritage Room into the RCC room. The other possibility with this whole coming back to an online in-person board meeting is we could always default to the auditorium. I mean, if there was something that, knock on wood, that was of extreme interest to our community that really drew people out to participate in one of our in our next board meeting, we could always move to the auditorium and of course project from there.
Well, I guess my question is mainly around, maybe it's a question for you, Amy. Is it okay to pause the meeting to move locales?
I think that'd be very challenging to administer, Jenny.
Something to think about.
Chair Edwards may.
So what was, okay.
And my question and the outcome of this question doesn't affect how I would vote on this today, by the way. So it's not pressing, but I didn't know, I've never been to an in-person board meeting, so I don't know how many people know. So, but now that you mentioned that that there's not usually that many people there, I feel more comfortable with that. But I guess my reasoning behind it is for the Robert's Rules of Order and things like that.
Sure. Really? One of the reasons why I did not introduce the idea of using the auditorium initially, and we looked at the RCC space. Number one, we've been using the RCC space quite a bit because you could actually come in those community ed doors and then turn right in, versus the auditorium. If we're open to the public, now we're coming in either through the commons door into the, into our buildings. I mean, into the entire high school, whether we direct staff or direct participants to come in through the student entrance, the commons door, or if we have the public come in through the front door, there's still you know, in the building. And we've always tried to minimize the number of visitors wandering around the building. And so our default or our first choice then was the RCC, because folks come right in through the community ed doors and turn right into those RCC rooms. And we've had several meetings in those rooms over the past couple of months now. I know Melissa's probably dropped off the call, but I know the chamber met in there probably a month ago and had, should I say, way many more members than have ever attended one of the board meetings that I have participated in. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, Jenny, those are really good questions. And I think I would agree that there isn't a scenario that I can imagine as chair that I would want to adjourn a meeting and move us.
Yeah.
So at all. The other option is that you just set it at a straight cap and you say, once we hit 24, once we hit capacity, then, you know, then it's, you know, then we make sure that we've got a live meeting link as the backup and people can listen along and listen from their car or somewhere else or something like that, just like tonight, right? So I mean, like that might be a better scenario, to be honest, as a plan B, is that we just flip to some sort of a live stream. But I can't imagine that it would be logistically easy to make that move. And usually people are kind of coming into the meetings right before 6:30. So that would be my other concern, is like meetings start on time and we start and we go forth with our business. So I wouldn't want to have to create a scenario where now we're going all over the place and shifting around. So thanks for lifting that up.
So we're prepared to do, to move in the direction that the board wishes, whether it's staying virtual, whether it's coming back. And again, our proposal is to meet in the RCC, the 3 rooms of the RCC, or if we want to move back into the boardroom or the auditorium. But our recommendation is going to be to use the RCC, the
Sure.
3 classrooms.
Other comments from the board, questions? Superintendent Dean, did you need to ask Director Luer anything? When Jenny was talking, that wasn't quite the time to ask. Was there something you needed to ask?
Well, I think he was going to add, thank you, Chair Edwards, I'm sorry to cut you off. I think he was going to add a comment about, Jim, are you still there, or you? I think he was going to add a comment about, Jenny, you had asked about moving the space, so.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we've kind of resolved that question maybe then. Okay, sounds good. Trying to stick to Robert's rules virtually here. So, all right. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, I mean, the request is, or the conversation is, to take action to move back towards in-person board meetings, beginning with the May board meetings. The proposal from the district is to hold them in the community center meeting rooms, as that has a larger capacity than the Heritage Room. I think the plan B currently is presented as this kind of hybrid model where we would vacate and go to a different room. I think we can offer up a different suggestion if there's a different approach that the board would like to take. Or we can say, nope, we're staying virtual. So those are kind of where we're at right now. And I just would open it up for the board to make a motion. Looks like Mr. Gordy's trying to get off of mute. Usually does that.
So, I mean, Rhonda, there's some process things to figure out, right? That there'll be bumps, right? Whenever we come back, there's going to be bumps doing all of this stuff. I think with the ability to keep people separate, right? And to make sure that we're masked and appropriate. I think it's good. I mean, you go to a restaurant and some places are much more full than others. So I appreciate the work that was put in place, and I look forward to having meetings together. I would like to have further discussion with MSBA to find out what happens when we do have a board member that is unable to attend physically in our set. And the hard thing is, if one person isn't comfortable, I don't think any of us should force the other person into it. I'm just saying, right? However, and that's tough, right? Because if we make a motion, now it's majority rule on top of this thing, right? And I just want to know, Chair Edwards, I didn't hear any dissent from someone saying that they don't feel overly comfortable coming back to an in-person meeting, you know, or they're uncomfortable coming to that, unless I misheard. So I would just like to ask, you know, is that reasonable that it has to be 100% consensus for us to come back, and if one person doesn't feel comfortable, honor the feelings of that person? Just a question.
Mr. Gordy, yep, that is what we've discussed at our previous work session. That is the MSBA recommendation that we've also discussed, that if there is a board member that is not comfortable being back in person, that then it is difficult to have a balanced playing field when you have people in person and virtually. So that has been typically the recommendation from MSBA in the past.
And with the approval of this action right here, this is saying that this is an acceptable.
Yep.
This is an acceptable process to us, but yet we still will have discussion whether or not that we come full back in to make sure there's 100% agreement for that. So that's what I'm worried about. If we vote on this and this comes to a 4-2 whatever, right? And we have two people that don't feel comfortable with this thing because they're not quite to that point yet. Majority rules, and now we're going to start coming back in. That's what I'm worried about. Or am I just outstepping this thing a little bit?
So you're wondering, I see. I'm fine with putting a motion forward to say that we approve that this is the proposed solution to bringing us back. But yet then do we need to have further discussion to be assured that all of the board is comfortable in coming back and not have one person still uncomfortable or whomever, right? That's my question. So then one option would be that we do a vote on, well, I mean, I don't even know that we need to do a vote. We could have a conversation. So we could have a conversation before a motion happens. And if everyone in the board by consensus can express that they're comfortable coming back in person, then we vote on the come back in person plan. So like I said, I hadn't heard dissent from anyone that there was not comfort. So let's have that conversation and first talk about coming back in person. And if we're all comfortable, then we can proceed forward with the proposal as presented.
And thank you. And that's my point, because I just don't wish to force this through and then have that come back and say, I'm not ready to do this.
Yep. Nope. Thank you for lifting that up. So let's create the opportunity for that conversation first. And again, guiding principle, like we talked about in the work session, we need to ensure that all board members are comfortable coming back. I think at our work session before, or maybe even our last board meeting, we had talked about May as being the target date, and the group really had talked about that as a team as well. So let's just open it up for conversation.
I will start if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So in past conversations, I've been kind of, I guess, the more cautious one of the group, with wanting to kind of hold off till that May meeting to go back. But I am fully on board with going back to in-person meetings in May.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny, for your thoughts. Anyone else have comments or things to lift up?
And I'll just echo in that I had shared already previously that I am in support of this and willing to look forward to having in-person meetings.
Great. Thank you, Mr.
Good
Gordon.
with me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
I'm good.
Thank you, Ms. Preska.
I'm good.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mrs. Amy Edwards, I'm good. So with that, can we have a motion around the return or conversation or amend it or however?
Very good. This is Eric Gordy, and I make a motion to approve the proposal for in-person school board meetings for beginning with May.
Great.
I will second that.
I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? All right, so the motion on the floor is to resume in-person board meetings beginning in May. The location would be the community center at this point in time due to capacity. And then I think to Jenny's point, we'll probably want to just think through logistics for the capacity clause. But as long as people are comfortable with, I'm comfortable with partnering with administration on what that would look like, just from a logistics perspective. If we can just say, going back in person in May, leveraging the community center, not to exceed the capacity as listed by the district. And if we do hit capacity, then we'll figure out a alternative plan. Does that work for this group? Is that the motion that's on, that you would say is on, Mr. Gordy? All right, great. No further discussion. We'll call for a roll call vote. Jessica Johnson.
Aye.
Brady Anderson.
Aye.
Beth Praska.
Aye.
Jenny Nealand.
Aye.
Eric Gordy.
Aye.
Amy Edwards, aye. Motion carries to return to in-person board meetings beginning in May with a new location of the community center and not to exceed capacity limits as listed in the proposal. And then if we do hit capacity limits, the board chair and the district will work together on what an alternative scenario is. Awesome. And then ensuring the other thing too that is in here that we did talk about that's maybe inherent that I don't think needs an action or resolution, but just is that making sure that we also are ensuring that we're following all state statute and guidance as far as board members that do require to not participate in person should the pandemic require quarantine or anything like that. And we'll figure out those logistics as well. So great. All right, thanks everyone for that.
Thank you.
All right, next, if there are staff still present, we are jumping into item number 9, which is just board superintendent updates and announcements. So should anyone that's still on the phone from the staff, you're welcome to go and you're welcome to stay. But we'll just jump into our board updates. Thanks everyone for being here this evening. All right, item number 9A is our board retreat. The date that we had talked about is June the 24th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. We would hold that in the RCC. Any issues or concerns with that date? All right, perfect. Then our next topic would then be number 9B. And that would be our work session is scheduled for May the 17th at 5:30 p.m. That's a short one. And then our regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled for May the 17th at 6:30 p.m. Based on the action item that just passed, the intent would be that that would be an in-person board meeting held in the community center. Any issues, dates, Superintendent Dean?
Just to clarify, then both the work session and the board session would be in person in the
Yes.
community center.
Yep, correct. Thank you for that. Yep. They would both be there. Any further discussion? Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. All right. Next, board and committee updates. How about look across my grid here? Oh, Mr. Gordy wants to go first. Eric Gordy, go ahead.
Very good. Thank you. Mine's super short. Initial formation by the district on our principal negotiations committee, as well as our 284 negotiations and mediation committee as well. And that's all.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gordy. All right. Any questions for Mr. Gordy? No questions. How about Ms. Preska, Beth?
Well, I was with Eric on all of the negotiation meetings. We've spent quite a bit of time together. And all I have to add to that, it looks like, is a couple MSBA advocacy days, which were actually really more interesting than I thought they would be. So a lot of breakdown of policy, and there was a legislative platform that was on March 19th. And then the one on the 26th, they had breaking down the educational finance issues of 2021. And they just went through a lot of the bills. At that point, they were talking about a 2% each year and inflation, but I don't know, they have to vote on everything. That would be nice though. And then just negotiation and pre-board planning. So yeah, lots of negotiation.
Thank you, Beth. Any questions for Beth? Nope. All right, Mr. Anderson.
This will be a short one. So no additional committee meetings since the work session. So we do have the Community Ed Advisory Committee tomorrow evening, as Melissa mentioned, during the regular portion of her update. So we'll be attending that tomorrow night.
Great, thank you. Brady, any questions for Brady? All right, Ms. Johnson.
All right, so did we give a report at our work session or not? I didn't think we did we? No, okay. So I had a Masico meeting in March after our last board meeting. I've added up, I think it's 6 negotiating meetings that we've had since our last meeting. It might be one more than that. Actually, yeah, today would have been 7, and today was an all-day thing where many people from tonight, many faces we saw tonight, we got to see all day today. We had our work session. I had a chamber event. Our chamber put on a very fun get-together last Thursday night that I would recommend for everyone on our board in the future. Guests are invited. I think you should look at attending it. It was really nice to be there and see our community and our businesses, the people that are there and supporting us. So, and we can support them. It was a fun gathering. It ended up being at the Choo Choo. It was just a real fun get together as Rhonda's laughing. It was supposed to be in Rockford at a venue, but they had a change that happened. They didn't really have a choice, and so it had to change venues. But I know in the future it'll end up being, I would assume they'll do their absolute best to keep it in Rockford. So, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Jessica? All right, Miss Nealand.
I will also keep it short and sweet. Haven't had really any committee meetings the past month or so. But just as Brady said, I'll be at the community education one tomorrow night. And I was also at the chamber mixer last Thursday evening as well.
Nice. Sounds like fun. All right. For me, just, mostly staying connected with Superintendent Dean and just different things going on with the district, as well as planning for the board meetings and such with Ms. Preska. And then I've just been trying to do a lot of kind of the webinars and online learning through MSBA as of late, and just reading a lot of the different legislative briefs to stay current with what's going on at the legislature right now. So that's really been more where I've been spending some of my time, to be honest. So that's my kind of short and sweet update here from me. Superintendent Dean.
I can't even act like I'm going to be brief, but I'll say it anyhow. I'll be brief, but there's just so much going on. It's the spring. You know, we're closing out one budget year, building a budget for the next year. Just all the end of the year culminating events, just a lot of things going on. And I always feel when it comes to my part of the agenda where I'm reporting out, it's like, well, all the directors have reported, have had their reports. And so I feel like it's a little redundant because I've been trying to work really closely with all the district directors. Number one, to get myself familiar with their pieces of the organization, if you will. So a lot of things that were on my list, of course, the directors talked about today. So in addition to that, a couple of other things. I didn't have a chance to lift up Tanley Lego earlier today. The bond refinancing discussion that we had really came from her, seeing an opportunity for us to refinance our current bond that we're able to refinance, and then looking ahead at that second bond that PMA talked about this evening. And so really, again, it was Tanley getting her legs under her, seeing an opportunity for us to refinance that bond, and then taking that initiative. And so I also want to thank Director Gordy for taking a call one day. It's like, Gordy, we have an opportunity here, and he engaged in the conversation. So thank you, Director Gordy. So there's the bond. Safe routes to school. We had a meeting it might have just been last week. You know, the time goes so fast. Thank you, Yvonne. It was last week, kind of revisiting our Safe Routes to School initiative. And it's really a difficult process to move along because there's so many agencies involved. And the Safe Routes to School initiative is really looking at how our kids get to school and creating those safe pathways. And so when we say safe routes, literally a safe route, you know, what sidewalk, crossing what street to get onto our property. And the way our buildings are located, we don't have many safe routes. Even our elementary school, we have housing right across the street, of course, from Reams and the high school, but it's crossing over Rebecca Trail or Highway 50 there. It's how do you get across that street? What is the safe path? And so that's where we are now. The district last year, 2 years ago now, 18 months ago, we did all the data collection and handed it over to, of course, MnDOT and the county and, you know, the city for those next steps. And so the meeting last week was really great, reconvening all of those players just to say what are the next steps. And really now it's in the hands of the county and the city and MnDOT to develop those plans and to provide those safe routes to school. And then once they've done that and we've created those safe routes, then it bounces back to the school then to do some educational things and to help kids utilize those safe routes appropriately. So I guess mentioning it here this evening is just to say that we're still having those conversations and really still trying to advance that ball forward. And I want to thank Yvonne for working with a new city council member who's really passionate about advancing the work of Safe Routes to School. And so Yvonne, thank you for taking that ball and really help facilitate that meeting and continue those conversations.
Before you jump from
Sure.
this, when we did the original planning for Safe Routes to School, I think that there was a board member that participated in that broader workshop. do we have a board member that's tied to the safe? I thought it was you, Mr. Gordy. Do we have a board member that's tied to the next phase of Safe Routes to School with you in partnership, just as a board member tied to this? And or would that be helpful? I mean, this is kind of a big initiative, so I just wanted to lift that up as, is that something where, yeah.
Well, the last meeting that we had, it was really the councilwoman who of course spearheaded it up and of course reached out to the school. We hosted and provided the space. But at this point, we're a participant in this greater committee. There's probably 20 folks on the committee. We're talking city engineers, county engineers, you know, looking at our roads, the sidewalks. So at this point, again, the school district is a participant, really listening to what the plans are based on the city engineering and our civil engineers input on how to create safer avenues for our kids to get to school.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss something in having a elected board member on the committee with you if needed, or if useful or helpful. That was all.
Well, it's always helpful. So if any, and I know the meeting that we had just last week, there was one community member who participated. It was Buffy, but otherwise it was pretty much all of our civil engineers, city, county. Am I missing anybody, Yvonne? I'm trying to mentally go around the room. But it was a real good conversation, and there are some things moving. I think what's interesting is how long it takes. I mean, it's 5 years. A study takes 3 to 5 years just to get through that phase. But there's some things that have started several years ago, even before the Safe Routes to School initiative, especially as it relates to access to Lake Sarah. So yeah, there's some good. It's moving up. It's moving along, but of course, don't know if anything is going to change for this fall. So, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just wanted to lift that up. Number one, if anybody is interested, and two, if that would be useful. I fast forward to the future, I could see this being something that would potentially require board level visibility at some point in time as plans continue to unfold. So, thank you.
Sure. And what we can do on that is the next meeting, put an all call out to any board member who'd like to participate. So we can absolutely do that. But again, we've only had just this one meeting just last week. And I know that the city's going to want to have another meeting because again, the ball's kind of in that court. And whether that court is the city, the county, the MnDOT, that's kind of one of the difficulties is that, who owns that, who owns the county road, the county. But there's just a lot of different players in anything that has to do with roadway and sidewalks and those sorts of things. So
why are you, Mr. Gordy?
Saying that when that comes back up, since I was on it originally, I wouldn't mind participating again.
Thank you, Mr. Gordy.
Deal, Eric.
All right.
I'd also like to, we've already talked about summer school and the greenhouse. I tell you that greenhouse, I think Jim Lure has dropped off, but Jim has been quite the advocate for the greenhouse and has really worked hard with our utility companies and with the subcontractors, making sure that project continues to move forward. Initially, we were not talking about electric or gas, and he was able to work with Centerpoint Energy to find a grant, and so we were able to get that. Even though our end game is to have it solar powered, and we'll get there, but in the meantime, we do have a backup. Because for a while there we were looking at propane, and propane is just cost prohibitive. I mean, so we were able to get natural gas going out to the greenhouse. crisis team, I haven't talked, oh, Gordy, sorry.
Yeah, so when we have a chance, I know that there was some good fundraising that occurred and some additional funds to the district. In the future, could we have a breakdown of what the greenhouse costs the district? If there's a ability to report out on that, that would be a good thing to know how much was donated and how much was expended out of general fund for that. And
Sure, I might have to go back in the history books for that because
no worries.
Because, well, and I just say that because, you know, that the greenhouse was started well before my time. And as a matter of fact, I remember having a conversation out in the parking lot, you know, pre-COVID. And it was, 2 summers ago now. And I remember talking to a parent whose student was at the high school. And she was just commenting on how she started donating to the greenhouse when her student was at Reams, and now the student's at the high school. So I might have to go back and really do some searching, but absolutely, we can get that breakdown.
And nothing for nothing for in the future. In the future.
Moving on with my report, crisis team. So we have our crisis team is meeting again. Prior to COVID, the crisis team was meeting on a pretty regular basis the fall of 19. And again, the crisis team was focusing more on, you know, you hate to talk about it out loud, but the case of an active shooter and those sorts of things, or if we had to evacuate the building. And I remember bringing this to the board again over a year ago, and how we were looking at, you know, a space where we could have, if we ever had to evacuate, where we would, what do they call it, a unification site. And so we are starting to have those conversations again. Once the pandemic started, when the crisis team was meeting, of course, we never thought in a million years that we would be planning for what has transpired over the past year, and that is reacting to COVID. But now that we've kind of see the end of dealing with COVID, we're shifting our efforts back to really looking at a greater response to any type of crisis that would happen in our building. And so we started those conversations again. And we also have new members of the DAT Plus team that were not involved in the previous conversations. And so it's really bringing those folks up to speed on what their roles would be in a crisis and what that plan would look like if we ever had to evacuate our buildings. Again, not a conversation that you want to have, but a conversation that we need to have. Yep. I'd like to go back to one step back to the facilities committee. We moved along on that conversation earlier this evening, but really did not get a sense from the board if there was somebody or one or two board members interested in that committee. Again, all right, there's 2. Did you get that, Yvonne? Those are 2 quick little hands. Because again, it is in line with the strategic plan that the board has outlined for us, and really just trying to connect the dots on Chair Edwards, you mentioned it earlier, you know, the operations committee, facilities committee, those are kind of the same people, if you will, but aligning those 2 committees with this greater facilities committee, and really looking at some of the things that you've talked about as a board to really focus on. And it starts with that facilities committee.
Yeah, and that's why I was kind of wondering just with if there's a way to kind of align it with the apps committee and, you know,
and that's what we're hoping to do. And that'll be one of the things that we'll talk about during the retreat.
Yep.
How we can align those better and really advance that ball forward.
Perfect.
So thank you for raising your hand. Director Gordy, thank you for raising your hand. We can have up to 3, of course, without having a quorum. So if any other board members interested in that committee, Did I just see a quick hand, Beth? Uh-oh.
Well, I just want to ask, like, tell me more, like how often, and I can't overschedule myself,
Well, we haven't talked a lot of details yet, but I could see us possibly meeting maybe even monthly initially until we get the ball rolling. And I don't want to overspeak that because we have reached out to Ryan from ICS, who has walked districts through this process before and really looking at those long-term facility planning initiatives and coupling that with our LTF funding, but really marrying those dots also. So there's a lot to be done there. And so this would just be the start of that conversation.
Okay, well, let's talk more about it, Rhonda. I don't want to commit 100%, but I'm interested. I just, for the next 2 weeks, man, I'm writing a dissertation. I'm finishing, so I want to get that done first.
As Chair Edwards mentioned just a little bit ago, a lot of stuff, information going through both the House and the Senate at the state level. Many education discussions are happening in both the House and the Senate right now. And so it just kind of keeping a watchful eye on what's going to come out of committee as it relates to our state government. And then, of course, lastly, keeping up with the Safe Learning Plan. It does still continue to change, and there continues to be updates. It feels like it's every week, but it's probably a few times a month. Right now, they've updated, of course, the prom venue plans and graduation plans, and it's really just staying on top of all of the new updates as it relates to the state Safe Learning Plan to make sure that we maintain, that we stay compliant with everything coming out of MDE as it relates to how we operate. And then there's negotiations and some of the other committees that I've worked on with members of the board. So just a lot going on. And of course, we're looking at our budget, and next month we'll be presenting, hopefully I will be presenting our budget then for next school year. So tis season.
Anyone have, yeah, totally.
Oh, and then just one last thing, Chair Edwards, it's great to see and hear spring sports happening on our campus again. I was out on the fields last week, and well, actually our athletic director put out an all call for the first track meet, and they needed some volunteers. So I was like, well, I got gear. So next thing you know, I'm out there at the long jump pit recording the measurements, and then it starts pouring down rain, and I'm looking around thinking, how did I get here? But they needed the help, and it's always all hands on decks, and when it relates to making sure our kids have the opportunities they need. But it was just nice being out that night, seeing boys and girls track and field. The girls were up on the softball field, and the boys were down on the baseball field, and just again, you can hear it, you can see the activity, and it's just great to see our kids out and to see the community come back to our campus.
Totally agree. It does feel nice, doesn't it? And we're all outside and enjoying the downpour as well as the sunshine.
Oh man, I'm like, it was okay.
Anyone have questions for Superintendent Dean from the updates that she provided? Great. Well, thank you. Lots going on.
As always, it's out.
Yeah. Good. Well, I look forward to signing all of the diplomas in the coming days. So that'll be fun. All right. Well, I think that Jess is all done. I know you did that today. So that's good. All right. Well, we are at the end of our board meeting. So no further agenda items are on the agenda other than the one, which is number 10, which is adjournment. So I would take a motion to adjourn.
like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I have
Jessica.
first from Jessica Johnson. Do I have a second?
Eric Gordy, second.
I have a second by Mr. Gordy. I have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Otherwise, the motion on the floor is to adjourn. I'll call for a roll call vote. Brady Anderson,
Aye.
Beth Praska,
Aye.
Amy Nealand,
Aye.
Eric Gordy,
Aye.
Jessica Johnson,
Hi.
Amy Edwards, aye. Motion to adjourn carries unanimously. The time is 9:20 p.m. and we are adjourned. See you in person next month. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.